You know, Ben, I don't know if you watched everything of Scarlett, her series against Future, but it was pretty wild. It was a little bit of everything. We had proxy spires, we had a hidden base that made roaches to ravage a Russia base as well. It was all over the place. Risky was in the chat and he was like, I actually loved all the build preparation. Scarlett on the other end said that he felt he wasn't in the best condition, and at the same time he's like, Future's gonna marine tank every game, so I just tried to play a bit different. But he also said yesterday he's feeling a lot better right now, so he's been sleeping better. So I don't know if Scarlett's gonna be that well, but I always feel ZVP, best of 5. I mean, Scarlett must have something special for us, no?
I'd imagine so. Like, it feels that a lot of her series have had a lot of cheeky stuff pulled into them, right? Like that series against Rogue where she eliminated him from the GSL, that was filled with good old cheddar cheese. And yeah, she's also a player that absolutely likes to mix it up and can fall back on a very, very solid macro game. How do you feel about this very late scout by Astrea? Would you class this as a bit of a Roddy scout?
Well, no, this is way later than me. This is actually good for your economy again, Ben. I'm not that smart. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what the point is of this. I guess if you would have been 12 pulled, you do get a little heads up, but it's so late that Zerglings would have already pretty much been there anyway. Not exactly sure what this is about. Maybe just to see if there is obviously gas being mined and now the first links come out. I'm a bit confused. It's not standard, but hey, it's better for your economy to scout later. And at this point, you still get the confirmation that everything is standard. But I wonder how this would have played out if Scarlett would have done something crazy like a proxy hatchery, which I think she's absolutely capable of in this matchup.
Yeah, given how, ever since she went to Korea and got to share a building with no regret, and it was like, that play is kind of cool, I'm always like, okay, I need to scout Scarlett pretty darn quickly. So the fact that Astrea was comfortable enough to just be like, oh yeah, I'll do a later scout, I'll just be kind of greedy on the economy kind of thing, that shows a lot of confidence. But also, we talked about these players, they have lived with each other, they do know each other's styles quite well, so there's obviously going to be quite a few mind games going on.
Yep, and even though we know that Scarlett is wild and has a lot of crazy strategies up her sleeve, I think the same can be said for Astrea. It seems like the first game is going to be a bit standard. We see 4 gates, resonating glaze. Whoa. Well, I'll take that standard back, Ben. That's 5 gateways now already. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get to see even more then. That's a very interesting number.
Yeah, because obviously going for 3 extra gates where you go to 4, that's totally standard. That means you can add on more if you wish, if you want it to be super duper aggressive. And, you can actually deviate, right? You can take a 3rd behind it, go with the DT follow-up. But this, very, very committed.
Yeah, Scarlett does have good overlord positioning, even though she didn't see one of the gateways, but she did see there was a gateway at the front as well. I'm a bit confused because I've seen like 6 and 7 gates, like if you really want to go all out. But why 5 gates?
I'm really not sure, Kevin. Also, if we remember what Scarlett said when she goes up against Astrea, he doesn't really like adept opening. So the fact that he's throwing this out immediately, maybe this is one of those things where it's like, he doesn't really like him, but he knows that Scarlett hates him and knows that she doesn't expect them from him. So maybe something like that.
And a little more committed than we normally see it. The spine crawler that's supposed to be here to make your life a little bit easier isn't done yet. I kind of like how early Astrea is going, even before Resonating Glaives is done. Now, the Warp Prism is probably going to head into the main base, so this is where Scarlett, her multitasking, is really going to get tasked, right? It's important to keep track of that Prism, have units in multiple positions, but at the same time be capable of dealing with the Adepts. So far, it's not working out because the Adepts on the left side are already finding a couple of drones, man.
They are. They're denying mining, which is really good. This is already getting a little bit scary, a bit out of control for Scarlett. She is now suffering a supply block, but she does have a lot of units on the map and, shuts down the Warp Prism, is shutting down the attack in the 3rd base, but Astrea, do you think he's going to be happy with this thus far?
I think so far it's good, but I don't think we're done yet. I think Astrea's going to get way more drones at this point. The only thing you have to be worried about is that you don't throw away all your adepts and then you're suddenly left with 4 army supply. But I think so far so good. Target firing was a little bit off there in the natural, but Astrea is winning the fight in the main base, and that means that this adept maniac is still going on, or mania rather. I mean, he's playing like an adept maniac, man.
He certainly is. Scarlett's running a little bit low on gas, and the drones, they don't stop falling. Adepts get into the natural here. 29 drones to 42 probes. But she is cleaning up all of the adepts, though. So, I mean, it's not without a cost.
Now, the problem is, though, Scarlett is still on hatchery tag. So what do? Do you counterattack with slow roaches? Is that even a thing? I mean, Everdring is small, but it's not that small, right? That I have a hard time believing this is good. Now, there is still a big army left over. Obviously, 3 bases will allow you to drone up very quickly. But Astrea is kind of crazy sometimes. I wouldn't be surprised if he just hits with another attack a minute or so from here with a couple of sentries and then 2 immortals in the mix as well.
Yeah, he is producing a third Nexus, though, so is going for the macro transition, the follow-up. Scarlett seemingly defending this Warp Prism attack quite well with this number of queens. Roach is already in the natural as well. But these Warp Prism, this Adept, is still nice snipes there by Astrea. He's definitely done good with this opening, I feel.
Yeah, I think he's going to be more than happy with it. Up 8 workers. Obviously, that's kind of being reduced at this point, as Scarlett is building nothing but drones from here on out. But Scarlett, her attack is so delayed that I'm a bit worried about that. We don't even have a Bailing Nest yet. I mean, roaches are good, man. But once that immortal count goes up, I don't know if roaches and ravages are really going to cut it forever.
No, certainly not. And the supplies are a little bit deceiving here because Scarlett, she does have 12 roaches on the field. It's also 6 queens that we use defensively. She is opting to get into roach speed now, which is fairly usual, fairly standard. But Astrea back on his side of the map, he's just pumping out lots of probes, getting upgrades going. Granted, his tech isn't super high, but I think economically he's in all right shape.
More than all right, I'd say. I think most pros players are going to be very happy with this when you know that you're just facing roaches for now. I mean, the Twilight Council is done, which means that Blink is now being researched, being chrono boosted out as well. The Immortal count is currently already at 3, by the way. That's a lot. 4th Immortal on the way. And I like this a lot for Astrea, but it's also important that you don't get too carried away. I've been here a million times myself, where you're like, man, I got so many drones and there are just roaches. But if the Protoss army isn't super big, then just roaches can actually be really scary. And here we already have a little bit of trickery by Scarlett. I was wondering if one of these overlords was going to drop some creep, and that is indeed happening. I honestly think I like the Spire a lot, because I feel like Scarlett needs a comeback play in this game. And then I think mutas are the best way to do it.
Even with the Blink follow-up and stuff? Because I mean, this army comp.
Yeah, it's rough, but what else do you do? Like, I don't think you're ever going to get lurkers out. I think Bailings, I think Scarlett just didn't have the economy to really get the amount of Bailings out that you're looking for. Mutas can create chaos. And I think at first you probably don't even want to use the Spire, because Scarlett is going to need to put all of her resources into roaches and ravages. But if you then defend, maybe then there is some potential for the mutas to buy a lot of time on the other side of the map, being annoying. But first, let's worry about this push. I actually would have loved to see Scarlett take the hatchery on the top left side, because I don't know if she can fight this army at this point, Ben.
That's what I was kind of wondering about, Kev, because I mean, this army is going to pack a punch very, very quickly. And while it's all well and good trying to create chaos, surviving till you can get there is another story. She's doing a good job of maneuvering about. She does reposition her spine crawler and stuff. But Astrea, he's just being really annoying, and his goal is really to deny a 4th base, which he's done.
Yep, I saw a very similar game the other week in Europe. I think it was an Elaser game, actually, where Elaser took the hatchery that Scarlett is taking right now, basically at 10 o'clock. And I think that makes a lot more sense when you had a rough early game, because you know that this push is coming through the center. So I think it makes a little more sense to go for a much more defensive 4th base. I still kind of like the Spire, Ben, because even though it didn't really come into play yet, it's a double robo build here for Astrea as well, as we do have that Warp Prism in the main base, getting a few more drone kills and even a queen going down.
I like it too. Force fields to buy time on Astrea's side of the map, because Scarlett is piling on the pressure. And I think that's a decent move. As you called it, she is making mutas behind this, but some nice grabbing force fields there for Astrea. Colossus as well after this.
Yeah, it's so tricky for Scarlett, because Scarlett knows that she needs to buy some time, but at the same time, her army is not really good enough to win a fight. She's going to do her absolute best here. It does kind of get close to the Immortals, but there's a Warp Prism in the mix as well that's going to help out here a little bit. And, I mean, Astrea feels confident enough at this point to just blink forward, get on top of these roaches. Yes, we've got mutas on the way, but I think at this point, Astrea can attack while still warping in stalkers at home and be very confident that his army is strong enough to always survive.
Scarlett hasn't revealed the mutas yet. They do fly into the main base, but there's already a cannon there. So definitely nice preparation by Astrea. There's not a shield battery as well, which would definitely shut this down. But Scarlett wanted she wanted that main base to be absolutely naked there without any defense whatsoever. And Astrea, he feels comfortable enough to march across the map. A cannon in every base. A shield battery
even a
in his
shield
third as well.
battery. Yeah, that's going to help out a little bit. The battery does go down, but I don't think this is really causing the chaos that Scarlett was hoping for. Astrea still very confident with his main army on the other side of the map. Takes down that hatchery, and there's actually very little left for Scarlett. I mean, a couple of additional roaches, a couple of additional ravages, but now we're just going back to where we were before.
Definitely. And I wonder if it kind of took Scarlett by surprise, the fact that Astrea opened up with Adepts like he did. Because in that interview, she was really talking about how he doesn't like him, and she talked to him, and she was like, why don't you make them? Like, very questioning about it. But Astrea, wow, did he take a page? You know, this is why interviews can give away too much information, I feel, because maybe Astrea heard that and was like, you know what, maybe she's right, and then whips it out here on the first game of the series. But man, what a way to open up this first game for Astrea.
Yeah, just an awesome start, and I think a very solid follow-up. I think the mid-game maybe has not been too explosive or too feisty. It just, all of it makes sense. I think Astrea is making all the correct calls, and that double robo is really going to kick in. And let's not forget, it's not just Colossus, because we still have those 4 Immortals from the early game alive. They already have a whole bunch of kills. They survived a couple of fights. There are like 40 kills on those Immortals, by the way, in total already. And most of it has been roaches.
Yeah, they've been valuable targets for sure. And when a Protoss is ahead in supply, but also like army tech and everything, because I mean, what's the biggest tech unit that Scarlett has is a Ravager and a Muta, which absolutely do not cut it when you have this kind of high-tech Protoss army, which is closing in on 200 supply.
Yeah, Mutas are going to try to buy some more time on the other side of the map, but Astrea is more than ready. With static defenses, with a lot of Stalkers, this fort base is going to get cancelled one more time. And I look at this Protoss army, Ben. Unless you got Vipers or maybe Lurkers, I don't really see it getting stopped. Broodlords would be nice, but that's very long ways off. We even have a Dark Shrine going down as well, and I actually think that even though Scarlett's got a big army, we need magical Baneling connections, but Baneling speed isn't even done.
Oh, and look at these force fields on the right side. The Mutas are getting in, but they're not really doing much. There's too much Protoss, and GG Astrea. Wow. I almost want to change my prediction after that one, Kev. Like, Astrea looked
You can,
clean.
Ben. I allow it.
You can? Okay. I'm going to go with Astrea 3-1, Kev. Astrea 3-1.
Still Scarlett 3-1. This was part of the plan, Ben. Like, Scarlett was always going to drop a map. Could have been the first. Now, Astrea looked really good. I think the Adapters got a little more done than they should have gotten done, especially because it's not that Scarlett wasn't building units or wasn't taking it serious. No, she was. There was a Spine Crawler being built. There were lots of roaches out on the map. I think the Queens were just a little too far out of position. And I think that all the Adept opening really needs is one opportunity, right? And from that point on, it's always going to snowball, because then there is always a weakness somewhere in the defenses of the Zerg. And in this case, I mean, it kind of happened in the natural where the Adepts got the majority of the kills. Just really well done by Astrea, good execution. But I think for everyone that wants Scarlett to win this series, nothing to worry about.
Scarlett's very good at kind of setting herself back to square zero, because every game is a clean slate, right? Like, just because you get behind a game, every game is a fresh start. So if you can really prepare yourself, and Scarlett, she's been in StarCraft 2 for a long time now. I remember when she was a newcomer, where she knocked me out of that tournament straight away at IPL, and I was like, oh, who's this? I'll give you a regame, Scarlett. Bam, she owned me 2-0. Now she's absolutely one of the very, very experienced players, and she's very cool, calm, and collected.
Indeed. Obviously, a very big series. For the people that just joined us, this is a lower bracket match in North America. But unlike Europe, where the top 4 qualifies for the season finals, in America, it's top 2. So these players are not there yet. That obviously means there is money on the line for this series as well. I believe it's $1,000 difference just winning this best of 5. That's a big deal, Ben. This is what we've been playing for over the last 2.5-3 weeks. And it all comes down to this best of 5. Let's go ahead and hop into our second game, which is going to be played on Pillars of Gold. A big
very large map, Kev. Very large map, you know?
Yeah, some people say it's huge, actually.
Anyhow, spawning in the top right-hand side is that blue Protoss. It is Astrea.
And in the bottom left side, we are looking at the main base of our red Zerg. It is Scarlett.
How do you feel about this one in PvZ, Kev? Because I know that it's quite defensive. You know, you got that ramp going up into the natural. What are you giggling at now, mate?
I mean, it's so big, man. This map is so big. It's just, I mean, there's so many ways to go. That's the only thing I can really think of right now.
Is this one a Roddy Scout?
Yeah, it's a bit different, actually. I guess it's traditional. It's definitely very different than what we saw in Everdream. Maybe Astrea is like playing a couple of little mind games here, right? In the first game being a little more gritty, going for a super late scout. And now there's like, I know Scarlett. Maybe Scarlett picked up on the fact that I scouted very late. So there's a chance that C's going for like a 12 pool. So this game I better scout early. I don't know. We don't really know what's going on because these two players, they know each other so well. And there are obviously a lot of things that happen in practice games that we will never be aware of, that we can't really tell the people at home about.
No, like these two, not only have they played against each other, they've lived together, you know? And that's when you can be like, hey, what do you feel about this strategy? And it's like, oh yeah, that one sucks. But what you're really thinking is, oh my God, if they actually start doing that, I'm in trouble. So there's going to be things going on in these games that we have absolutely no idea about. Back at home for Astrea, just everything very, very standard. Get in the cyber core, get in the second gas. Whoa.
That's your team. That's your team spirit, man. When you lived in a team house, your teammates are asking about a strategy, and you're like, "Yeah, you should definitely not do that." Just because you're afraid they start doing it, you'd be a terrible person to live with. What the hell?
Well, Kevin, these guys weren't teammates when they lived together. Okay, they are absolutely competitors and colleagues and what have you. I never did that to teammates. I actually, I used to cheese my teammates a lot, and I remember when I first moved in, they were like, "Man, I'm going to stop practicing with you." And then we went to an MLG, and I remember this was LZ Gamer specifically. He got to like winner bracket round 5 or something, and he was like, "Ben, I gotta say thank you. We should practice more often because I got cheesed every game here, and I knew exactly what to do." So I am a good teammate, Kevy.
I do believe that you're a good teammate, but I'm not sure if I would trust your strategic advice by the looks of it. Yeah, I mean, you'd lie to me. You'd be like, "Yeah, you should totally keep opening up with 3 stalkers," and that's why I did it for like the first 5 years of StarCraft. You know.
I was so honest with you about that. I was like, Kevin, stop. Because you were just like, whenever I meet a bunker, I just lose the game. And I was like, Kevin, you got to stop doing that crap.
All right, man. We have another Twilight opening with a quick robo as well. We see additional gateways going down. Let's take a look at the main base. We are once again only mining with 2 probes of one of the assimilator, and resonating glaives is being chrono boosted out one more time. I wonder how many gates we're going to get this time. 5 is such a funny number.
Yeah, I was wondering, do you think, like, given that Zerg openings are so precise about, like, okay, if I make this number of units, it will deal with this opening, do you think Astrea just did that as kind of like a weird roundabout way to get around that?
Maybe, or he just lost count. And he told the kid, yeah,
Really?
you laugh, but these things happen.
All right.
You don't believe that's a possibility?
You know what, Kevin? Just Protoss things, I suppose. Like...
Hey man, there's a lot going on. We need to drop a robo, we need to build a war prism, we need to take a guy out of the gas. It's hard. Sometimes we build a gateway too many. These things happen to the best of us.
Freaking hard life. I wonder, given that it is like the normal opener this time with the adepts, that we'll see like a much earlier third or something, or maybe like some tech afterwards, like a dark shrine, because the amount of follow-ups you can do afterwards is so different.
No, I think it could have potentially had something to do with Everdream, right? I think the Adept build is incredibly good on Everdream because the map is so small and the build hits so much harder. And it's also very easy to go in between all 3 bases. So maybe it was just an Everdream special where you do want to get an extra Adept or 2. Once again, I feel like this is starting off really promising. Okay, the Shade finishes up, goes deep into the natural. Where are the Zerglings? The Zergling count isn't really there yet, man. It's only 14 links. This is such a good way for this attack to start. All of these drones are going to be so exposed. The War Prism shows up in the main base as well. There is nothing in the Prism. Oh my goodness. This is a disaster for Scarlett.
This is a super disaster. And wow, letting those Shades finish, I guess it's okay because there weren't that many Lings. And the Lings, oh my gosh, this is so bad. How can you deal this much damage? And wow. Astrea is bringing it. The first game, Scarlett held, taking damage, but this game, holy crap. I don't even know, Kevin.
I mean, Scarlett did go for an incredibly quick lair, and the ultimate defense against this build obviously is done of hatchery tech, right? I think, you know, we were joking around a little bit, but normally you need all the resources you can get your hands on as a Zerg player. There was a lair, That obviously doesn't help, right? It's not like roach speed is ever going to kick in. Maybe because of that ladder, the roaches were late. And if the roaches were late, this is going to be a lot more difficult. Now, I got to give it to Astrea, though, and all kudos to him, because often we're a little bit hesitant with our shading. And, you show up with your first adepts, and even if you send the shades into the natural to pull units out of position, you're like, well, this could be a trap, right? Like suddenly you let the shade finish up and links collapse from every angle. Astrea just went for it, got into that middle lane. He's like, whoa, this is going amazing. And then obviously once the start is great, it keeps being great. And that's the power of the adept, especially if you have a Warp Prison in the mix as well. That was brutal for Scarlett. I don't know. Maybe she really didn't expect Astrea to do the build twice.
I'm not sure, because it was a slight different variation, right? Like one less gateway, but the amount of punch that packs, it's so damn strong. If it spirals out of control at any point, and it's that kind of build as well, where if you see things aren't going that well for you, you can transition out of it pretty comfortably, as long as you didn't commit too many adepts. And we've seen that time and time again. But here, the fact that he saw Scarlett make a mistake and start taking too much damage, boom, you're totally right. He went full on the gear, gear 6, as many adepts as possible, here, there, and everywhere. And he just never let up. It was really, really good by him. And Scarlett, this is such a different show from Raynor against adepts to Scarlett against adepts, right? Because, she is trying to do other things like teching quickly and what have you, whereas Raynor respected it a lot more.
No, but I do think that Scarlett really respects this build as well. For the people at home, she's playing under the clan tag Adapted. So I think that says enough. She's very well aware of the power of this build. Maybe it's just that, okay, on Avid Dream it happened, but she really didn't think that Astrea was going to do that again. I don't think there was an Overlord Scout in the main this game, right? I at least didn't see it. But
she saw it at the natural, coming out, so...
Yeah, but that's already pretty late. If you're already at Lair Tag then, and the Roach Run isn't even done yet. It's just that sometimes as a Zerg, I think you're hoping... It's like Protoss players like to play it safe as well, because you don't just want to throw away all your adepts and be like, all right, I was a little too greedy, but if I just have enough time to survive the first or second wave, then it's going to be okay. Then I will have the right amount of units out. Anyway, this is one hell of a showing so far from this man who's trying to break the old god. Out with the old, in with the new. This is Astrea.
And already up to some of her cheek. Spawning in the bottom left, doing a 12 pool. It is Scarlett.
Well, it wasn't a Pylon Scout. Let's see if it's going to be Gateway Scout by Astrea. No. Okay, Astrea's going back to his shenanigans of game 1, where he either doesn't scout or scouts so incredibly late that I think by the time you really see something, the Zerglings are already going to show up. And I'm really curious to see how this one is going to play out, man.
So what kind of a scenario is Astrea hoping for if he is against a 12 ball? Obviously he's hoping not to be against a 12 ball.
He's not hoping for that at all, then. That'd be terrible if he doesn't scout.
But that's what I'm saying. Best case scenario, does he start producing a Zealot immediately? Or... Because,
but nobody opens up with a Zealot blindly. It's going to be Gate Nexus. I have seen some scenarios where I'm like, wow, Protoss is in all sorts of trouble, but then there are a couple of questionable decisions on the side of the Zerg player. Okay, there is a probe moving out right now. Scarlett is going to avoid the Xel'Naga Watchtower, which I think is a great move by her.
So is this potentially just a guaranteed build order loss for Astrea just based on not scouting?
Unless he pulls off a miracle. Like I said, I've seen this in the past where one time I was convinced that it was game over. I don't know if it was a parting game, but the pro pool was perfect. The Lings were committing to the pylon, but then the probe showed up. But this is a dream scenario for Scarlett. This should be a build order win. The Nexus gets cancelled immediately, but Astrea doesn't have a second pylon. The first pylon is already taking so much damage. He's going to build a second pylon there as well. I'm not even sure if the Zealot is the right call here. Well, it doesn't matter. GG gets called. Scarlett will win game 3. And this is why, Ben, you shouldn't be a greedy boy and don't probe scout.
No, guys, and we will resume with this series right after this break.
Welcome back, everybody, to the DreamHack StarCraft 2 Masters, where we are still in the best of 5 of the lower bracket of the North American department. It's been a wild series so far, Ben. Short games. I mean, the first game looked like a game of StarCraft 2. It's just like, wow, the Adepts are getting a lot done. In game 2, the Adepts got more than a lot done. They won the game. And then in game 3, Scarlett is like, you didn't really scout in game 1. You did scout in game 2. Doesn't mean you don't scout in game 3. Well, that was the case.
It certainly was. Like, these games just progressively got faster and faster to the point that it's over in 2 minutes kind of thing. Anyhow, spawning over in the bottom right-hand side, it is Scarlett.
And in the bottom left side of Golden Wall, we're looking at the main base of a man that I really did expect to probe scout, but he's not doing it yet. That is Astrea. There's no way you don't scout here, right? I was about to say, after what just happened in the previous game. There's no way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always a sucker for, like, how do players go about their scouting and why and what are the... So I really wonder, like, if that scout that he did there doesn't prevent a 12, like, it doesn't survive against the 12 pool, what is it to find out about? Because you might as well almost not scout at all, right?
I mean, I think, obviously, if it's like a gasless opening or a double hatch before a pool, these are still useful things. Don't forget that there's a lot of all-ins that are not just 12 pools. Yeah, like you also have the Link Flood that has been becoming a little bit popular, right? We saw Reina do it today. I think if you just pick up on the facts like, hey, there's like 8 links out, you know, I think there's a lot of things that you can be looking for there. Even just Overlord patterns in the middle of the map. Because I went back in our break and I took a look at the replay of game 2 to see what did Scarlett actually see on Pillars of Gold. Because I had too much fun teasing you for lying to your teammates when you're living with them. But there was a Stalker out on the map getting a couple of shots off on one of the Overlords that Scarlett had that was heading towards the main base of Astrea. The Overlord didn't die or something, but I think because it took shots, Scarlett was like, you know what? I'm not going to commit with the scout. And maybe then she just completely misread it, thought it was a Stargate opening. And she's like, cool, I'm going to go into a quick lair. And lairs are not very useful against the Adept opening.
No, certainly not. So obviously Astrea is a little bit under the clock here, right? Because he's up against a gold base, which is obviously mining quite a bit more than a normal base. So what are some things that Protoss choose to do here to try and slow things down a little bit on Golden Wall?
You know, Ben, I am the wrong person to ask, okay? Because you know what my response is? I'm going
Phoenix?
Tempest. No, Tempest, baby. One Phoenix into Tempest. You put the Tempest on the other side of the Golden Wall. You get a couple of drone kills. It is fantastic. It's bulletproof against all-ins as well. And speaking of all-ins, Scarlett is already dropping a super early Roach Warren. To give you a more serious answer, Ben, I feel like every Protoss has their own approach. Some Protoss players really want to punish it. Some of them are like, the best thing you can do is actually just play somewhat normal. Because most of the time, Zerg players are going to over-defend anyway, because they're super worried about losing their gold. So playing a normal game is not that bad. It's more important here for Astrea, Ben, instead of killing a drone or something, that Astrea picks up on the fact there is a super early Roach Warren.
Yeah, I mean, this is already a decent number of links, right? But nothing too scary, because Zerg always want to deflect these Adepts as good as they can. Okay, so Sentry coming in for Astrea. Also a really fast Immortal. It feels like he's definitely sniffed out something, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're always worried, because don't forget, it's not just the gold base. That hatchery is also a little further forward, right? And Zerg players with forward hatcheries like to be a little more aggressive in general. But he's definitely not convinced of it, man, because otherwise Astrea would be building shield batteries here, which is something I'd be like, Astrea, you kind of need a shield battery right about now.
And like, there's no way for him to scout, really, besides the Shades, but Scarlett's doing a good job of just preventing that from happening. Okay, now the Shades do start going out and in different locations, but Scarlett hiding her Roach there. That was very nice.
Yep, also hiding the Zerglings, which I think is really smart, but showing all these links, I mean, it does bait out 2 very early force fields. That cross the ball is actually going to kill a Zergling, I think, as well. That Stalker takes a lot of damage. The floodgates are open, but how many Zerglings are really coming up behind this man? Oh my goodness, baiting out those force fields may have been the most brilliant play in the entirety of this tournament.
But there was quite a few biles there on her own Zerglings, and I mean, that one Ravager trying to stay alive against the probes. The Immortal is holding strong, and now we have a Warp Prism as well. I think Astrea is holding this so far beautifully, and he's still mining very, very competitively with Scarlett, and now he knows exactly what's up.
Yep, and the most defensive shield battery there as well is probably going to keep Astrea safe. Astrea feeling so confident that he even sends the sentries out for a split second, but that Warp Prism also needs to be at home, obviously, defensively. I mean, Scarlett is very, very committed. Sees down 12 workers. I don't want to say it's now or never, Ben, because there is a gold, it is 3 bases, but this is extreme commitment by Scarlett.
Yes, Astrea's being rather crazy about his force fields. They're going down more early and more early, but so far I think he's holding really well. He's now on to 2 Immortals here against Scarlett, and Scarlett is exceedingly all in with this. A few Lings do get in, trying to kill that sentry, but no, they are not able to do it.
I almost feel Astrea has no idea how all-in Scarlett really is, but there is battery overcharge available as well, and that means that these Lings are going to be disengaging. And it feels now finally Astrea's like, wait a minute, you're still building units? That's a little crazy. Corrosive Bound does not take care of this gateway yet, but I mean, with the Warp Prism, with the Immortals here, I feel Astrea's got so much micro potential. That micro potential is showing at, well, this is kind of it. That shield battery is out of energy. Don't tell me that Scarlett is still going to win this.
The Lings are getting good surface area surrounds, but nice Immortal juggling, and a 3rd Immortal is joining the fray by the looks of it on the high ground. Astrea doing a magnificent hold against this all-in by Scarlett. He is losing probes, but Scarlett still trying to flood him with Lings, and I think the Immortals are too much.
Yep, I mean, with 3 Immortals and a Warp Prism, I can't see this going wrong. Look at Astrea. He was thinking of going for a full wall up there. He's like, no, let's go for another pylon and a Zealot in the wall. Astrea is in a absolutely magnificent position, but I don't think he's truly convinced of it. He's like, I could have defended that better. It's like, I mean, look, no, Scarlett is on 20 drones. This is kind of it.
It really is. Like, Astrea, he's not sending his Warp Prism down the normal routes either. He's going for the harass, thinking, Scarlett definitely macroed up with this, right? But seeing some Lings being produced from that larvae, maybe that's enough to kind of tip him off a little bit.
Not having this Warp Prism at home, though. I mean, obviously, there's recall, right? Let's see if there's energy on the Nexus. Chrono Boost was just used. There is no recall available at this point, but there are plenty of units. I mean, it really does seem that this game cannot go wrong for Astrea at this point. He does have Zealots in the choke point as well. The Ravagers are trying to force the entry here for the Zerglings, but there are still force fields available as well, Ben. I don't really see this ending well for Scarlett.
No, she is getting some Lings into the main, but it's such a sad number. Overcharge being used preemptively as well. You can definitely tell Astrea is a little bit nervous in this situation, but this is such an important series, and he is doing so well. He also took down the gold base back on the other side of the map while all this was going on. Astrea takes on the series.